Good morning, everyone. Let's start the class with the prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhavaswa Tat Savitra Varenyam Vargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayat Asto Ma Sadgamya Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya Mrityorma Gamya. Om Sahna Bhavatu Sahna Bhunaktu Sahviryam Karvavahi Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti 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 Om. Today is Thursday, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. We started the second chapter. And there's a conversation between King Ajaat Shatru and Garge. Two very famous people in our literature. And Garge, Rishi Garge, he comes to Ajaat Shatru, the king, and he gives a little instructions on the meditation. However, these instructions have the gradation, because there's a gradation in the objects mentioned in this chapter, or in this section especially. They definitely help the new student, because we can focus on the grosser better than the subtler in the beginning. So starting from the gross, the objects mentioned become more and more subtle to approximate the absolute, which is the subtlest of all subtle, and which remains transcending the gross, subtle, and even causal. The ultimate truth is arrived as through the analysis of the waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state. We'll see that also in this section. After showing that the self, which appears to be veiled by the mind and umpteen objects in the waking state, is self-resplendent in the dreaming state, where the waking world ceases to exist. And we experience that every single day when we sleep. So but Upanishad says that it is still more effulgent in the deep sleep state. That means waking world is grosser, dream state is subtler, but the deep sleep state, there is a duality which is completely absent. That's a deep sleep. While the experience in the waking state is through the mind and the senses, and in the dreaming state, it is by the mind alone. All the sense organs and their objects, they have merged themselves in the mind, in the dream state. But the deep sleep, even the mind is sleeping. Consciousness is freed of all limitations. So what is there to experience in deep sleep? Because duality has ceased to exist, and even the subject of the waking and dreaming state appears to be non-existent in deep sleep. It is the self experiencing the self. It is experienced in a very mystical sense, not in the ordinary sense. because there is no triad of experience. So that means there's no experiencer, there's no experienced, and there is no experience. It's devoid of all that. That's why no language can express that supreme state, even though we go through it every day. So we'll see that in this section. Okay. So which is like a Ajaat Shatru Brahman. So let's look at it. Where did we leave our Upanishad the last time when we were together? If I'm not mistaken, I think we have done verse number 6 of this chapter. So let's start with verse number 7. And in our books, it is page number 115. Sa hovach gargye va ev ayam agroh purushah etam ev aham brahmo upas iti sa hovach ajat shatru ma etat tasmin sarvam tishtah vipas hirtihi va aham etam upas iti sa ya etam evam upasate vishas hirah bhavati vishas hirasya praja bhavati. So Garge is speaking. He said, I adore as Brahma that being who is in the fire. So this is another object he's mentioning over here, fire. Ajaat Shatru said, please do not talk about him. I adore him alone as tolerant. He who adores him thus becomes tolerant, and his progeny too becomes tolerant. So this is verse number 7 of this chapter. The person in the fire whom Garge mentions is also the organ of speech, actually. Fire is associated with the speech. He is limited and conditioned, and hence the king did not accept that also. Tolerance is attributed to him because fire consumes anything which is thrown into it by accepting it. And we have witnessed that in our fireplaces or bonfires. It tolerates, as it were, everything given to it and never rejects anything. This unlimited tolerance is the characteristic of the supreme subject, in which all objects get themselves merged. He who meditates like this does not find anything intolerable in the world. So this height of meditation takes us to this level. We are tolerant. We tolerate everything. Tolerance is a virtue. It heightens. So there's no need to resist or oppose or refuse any kind of a criticism, any kind of a cavil. They cease in his case. Not only that, his progeny also inherits this benefit of his meditation. When parents are tolerant, the children get the benefit of that too. That's what happens with these virtues. So this is a little conversation between Rishi Garge and Ajaat Shatru. Now let's see what else which other object he mentions in verse number 8, because he is going to keep on giving from the grosser to the subtlest objects up until the verse number 13. Then we'll start with the waking and the dream and the deep sleep state. Sahuvac garge ya evayam apsuhu पुरुष एतम एव अहम ब्रह्मो उपासिति सहोवाच अजात शत्रु म एतमस्मिन् स्वंदिष्टः प्रतिरूपिति व अहम एतम उपासिति स य एतम उपासते प्रतिरूपम ह एव उपगच्छति ना प्रतिरूपम अथो प्रतिरूप अस्मा जायते. Garge said, I adore as Brahm that being who is in water. Apsu means water. So I adore as Brahm that being who is in water. Ajaat Shatru said, please do not talk about him. I adore him alone as harmonious with the scriptures. To him who adores him thus only harmonious things come and not inharmonious. And from him are born children who are harmonious. So that being who's in water, in the semen of an individual and in the heart, is the person about whom Garge speaks. That is the conditioned Brahm, not the supreme one. See, Ajaat Shatru, the king, as a meditator, he is looking at everything from that highest point because he had the experience of it. That doesn't mean that Garge did not, but for sometimes these scriptures are written for elementary students also. So they can conceptualize how this meditation is going to go towards the peaks. So that's why from the fire, it goes to water now. So the person about him Garge speaks, that is the conditioned Brahm, not the supreme Brahm. So King over here also is suggesting that the highest form of meditation on the universal characteristics of the agreeableness for water is sure liked by everyone. So it's okay to meditate on water, but it's not Brahma. It is just an unavoidable necessity to continue life. And that's the reason he says, he who meditates on him, only agreeable things go to him, never which is not agreeable. Also from him, agreeable is born. That means the progeny. So that means the qualities which parents cultivate has the effect on the future generations also. This is one of the wealth we give it to our future generations, whether it's a tolerance or whether it's a agreeability. Children watch us, they see us, they find peace in it, and they want to copy us. Verse number 9. Sahovac garge ya ev ayam आदर्शे पुरुष एतमहं ब्रह्मो उपासिति स हुवाच अजात शत्रु म एतम सुवंदिष्टः रोचिष्णुरिति व अहम एतम उपासिति स य एतम उपासते रोचिष्णु भवति रोचिष्णु हस्य प्रजा भवति अथो य स निगच्छति सर्वान् तान् तिरोचते. Garge said, I adore as Brahm that being who is in the looking glass. That means a mirror. Adarsh, that is a glass. Ajaat Shatru said, please do not talk about him. I adore him alone as bright. He who adores him thus becomes bright. And his progeny too becomes bright. He also outshines all those with whom he associates. So that being who is in the mirror, and it could also be in other shining objects, and in the intellect, is not the supreme Brahma because he is characterized by radiant, which is his attribute. He becomes the experiencer and the agent through the corresponding objects and the intellect. It's a matter of common experience that everyone enjoys at the reflection of his or her face in the mirror. We never get tired of it. Wherever we see the mirror, we want to see our face. Or wherever we see the reflecting surface, we want to see ourselves. So this simple fact is made use by this Upanishad for meditation by Gargya. It's also called sometimes in the other scriptures Darpan Yoga, yoga of the mirror. You can experience it. Stand in front of the mirror, look at your face, look into your eyes, go deeper and deeper with the help of your eyes into that reflection. That is called a Darpan Yoga. Because we all like our faces. That's why concentration becomes easy. And if this is meant by Rishi Gargya, the king says that what is to be meditated is not the form in the mirror, not the reflecting surface of the mirror, but the principle behind both, which is different from both. We are not our reflection. We are even without our reflection. In other words, it is the ultimate cause and not any effect that should be object of meditation. And which is the effulgence behind the mirror, effulgence behind the reflection, and the effulgence behind the intellect also. We are supposed to meditate on that. He becomes shining and effulgent who can meditate like that. And he says further that his progeny also becomes shining. Everyone will see oneself in the meditator. Himself and his progeny will outshine everybody else. So this radiance comes from this kind of a meditation. That's why we see certain people more radiant. In fact, we see the aura around these saintly people. That's the radiance. Then in the next verse, still he is talking about the objects. Sa hovach gargya, ya evam ayam yantaham panch shabdoh anudutye va aham brahmo upasiti sa hovach ajat shatru ma etam samvidishtaha asuriti va aham etam upasiti sa ya etam upasate sarvam ha ev asmin shlokah ayureti nanam pura kalahat prano jahati. The Garge said, I adore as Brahma that sound which arises in the wake of one who goes. Ajaat Shatru said, please do not talk about him. I adore him alone as life. He who adores him thus reaches a full span of life in this world, and life does not leave him before his term. So that means no akal mrityu. So Rishi Garge is instructing in this verse to meditate on the sound which is left behind a person when a person walks. There's always a sound when we walk. This sound is heard when one walks alone at night. Because during the daytime, sometimes there are so many sounds outside, we don't hear it. But when there's a quietness outside, we can hear our footsteps. Or in a solitary place, when there's no other sound, it would be like someone closely following us. This sound is produced by the thud of one's own feet on the earth. So the object of meditation here, according to the king, is the vital force which is the ultimate cause of the sound. And not the sound itself, as Garge understood. The vital force which sustains the life in all of us is also not the ultimate supreme Brahma. Pran is not Brahma. It is only a manifestation of Brahma. The result of meditation on the life force is long life without any cause for premature death. Sure, it helps to do the pranayama also, to meditate on the pranvayus also. Sure, we'll live longer, but you cannot equate pran with Brahma. That is the message King Ajaat Shatru is giving it to us. From his own experience. Now, verse number 11, let's see what else they say. Or what are they talking about? Sa ha uvach gargeya evamayam dikshu purush etam aham brahmo upas iti sa uvach ajat shatru ma me etam swandishtaha dvitye anpag iti va aham etam upasiti sa ya etam upasate dvityevan havavati na samadha richte chidte. Chidte means this like a parts. Garge said, I adore as Brahm that being who is in the directions. These directions are called quarters also sometimes. Okay. Ajat Shatru said, please do not talk about him. I adore him alone as second and as non-parting. He who adores him thus has associates, and his retinue never parts from him. So likewise, the way he has been giving some answers to us for the higher meditations, over he says the person in the quarters, and persons in the quarters are who? The twin gods, Ashwin Kumar. Those are the devatas of the quarters, Ashwin Kumar. We learnt about those in Bhagavad Gita also. So the Ashwins, who are the deities of the quarters, in the ears as well as the heart of an individual whom Garge Rishi defines as Brahm to be meditated upon. So the meditation should be on the divinities and not on the name and form of the quarters. Sure, if you can look at the divinity in the Ashwin Kumar, so that's okay. Just like if we see the divinity in the sun and the moon, that's okay, but not the form. One should see the real behind the unreal. Because no matter how long these devatas live, they are not permanent. Sure, they live longer than us, but permanent and the real is only Brahma. So one should see the real behind the unreal, the inseparable in the separables, the unchanging and the permanent in the ever-changing, and the transient, which is the hidden principle behind the quarters, or the ears, or the mind. So meditation on this as a Brahma brings in corresponding results. Because if we meditate on something which is flimsy, the effect will also be flimsy. So King Ajaat Shatru, he is taking our mind through all these examples which are given by Rishi Garge, but he says these are still lower meditations. The real purpose of meditation is to become one with that absolute, the highest. He says the meditator will be attended upon by companions and will not be deserted by them. He will become inseparable from everything. See, at the bodily level, at the physical level, we can be separated. We will be separated. But if we meditate on the eternal, unchanging, the permanent, there is no separation then. No separation even after leaving this body. And this is where he's taking us. Let's look at number 12 also. Where else he's taking our attention to. This is verse number 12. Sahuvach gargeya evam ayam chaya meha purush etam aham brahma upasiti. Sahuvach Ajaat Shatru ma मैं तस्मिन् समदिष्टः मृत्युरिति व अहम एतम उपासिति स य एतम उपास्ते सर्वं हेवा अस्मिन् लोकः आयुरिति नैनं पुरा कालान् मृत्युरागच्छति. Garge said, I adore as Brahma that being who is in darkness. Chaya Meya. Ajaat Shatru said, please do not talk about him. I adore him alone as death. He who adores him thus reaches a full span of life in this world, and death does not approach him before his term. So when refuted again and again by the wise king Ajaat Shatru, Rishi Garge proceeds to define another phenomena for meditation as Brahma. He suggests the person in the shadow, in ignorance, and in the heart. It is said that the meditation on the shadow of an object can move the original object. That's the power of the meditation. Externally, it is darkness, and internally, it is individual ignorance. and his attribute is death. But the king sees something else in this meditation. He says the shadow is unreal, while the original is real. So is this universe, which is a shadow, a phenomena, while Brahm is only real. All appearance is death, and the shadow is a symbol of death. By seeing the shadow of the world, one loses sight of one's own self, which is the worst death. So the result of this meditation is the same as that of meditation in the mantra 10, which we just saw, with the additional result that he will be free from suffering due to the disease and the like. So there won't be early or akal mrityu. So again and again, King Ajaat Shatru is taking our mind towards the real. Meditate on the real, let go of the unreal. You don't want to make the unreal more firm in your mind. Another beautiful thing we see over here in this conversation over here, in a very beautiful way, they are taking our attention towards the subtlest. Both of them. Both are experienced actually. It's almost like a teacher of a kindergarten class knows how to form the sentences, paragraphs, but still teaches the children the alphabets, repeats the alphabets every day with them, or the counting. So the same way this Rishi Garge and King Ajaat Shatru is repeating all this with us students. It's not that Rishi Garge was not, he belonged to that family of the realized saints. So he couldn't have taken a birth in that kind of a family if he didn't know all that. But for our benefit, students like us, this conversation is going on, and a beautiful conversation. I find it very interesting that how much effort these rishis have put in for our benefit. Let's look at the 13th verse also today. Sa huvach gargeh ya ev ayam atmani purush etam aham brahm upasiti sa huvach ajat shatru ma etam asmin swandishtaha atam iti va aham etam upasiti sava etam upasat atmani havavati atam vinhi hasya praja bhavati sah tushi mas garge. Garge said, I adore as Brahm that being who is in Hiranyagarbha. Ajaat Shatru said, please do not talk about him. I adore him as self-restrained. He who adores him thus becomes self-restrained, and his progeny also becomes self-restrained. Garge became silent. So now Garge places his trump card, if you want to call it. He says he meditates on the selfhood of his personality as Brahma. And the king points out that it's not the real self, being a partial manifestation. It's only an expression or a part of the real self. The self of even Hiranyagarbha. Because what is a Hiranyagarabha? Hiranyagarabha is that golden egg. Golden egg which is made out of cosmic mind and intellect. That is Hiranyagarabha. So he says, it is only an expression or a part of the real self, the self of even Hiranyagarabha. The meditation on this real self will result in the possession of the Supreme, which result will extend to your progeny also. So far, we have seen Rishi Garge has put forth his progressive definitions regarding the conditioned Brahma. All these examples are of the conditioned Brahma. And this king, who is a knower of the Supreme Brahma, he revealed that all these, so far, the examples given by him were known to him already, and none of them is correct and complete knowledge of the Supreme Brahma. That's what he's pointing out to us. After this, Garge could not say anymore. Because maybe he just wanted King Ajaat Shatru to say something. He wanted to learn more. Maybe he did not realize that how much King Ajaat Shatru knew or experienced, so he remained silent. Let's look at verse number 14. Sa ha uvach Ajaat Shatru eta avnuh itihi etav didhi न एतावतः विदितं भवति इति स उवाच गार्गे उपतवः या नीतिः. Ajat Shatru said, is this all? Because Rishi Garge became silent, so he said, is that all now? This is all. Brahma is not known by this much knowledge. Garge said, let me approach you as a student. Rishi Garge was not an ignorant person. He definitely had practiced meditation on the several progressive phases of Brahma up to Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic being, which is also called the first manifestation of Brahma, the Supreme. But he has not known the absolute which transcends all manifested and unmanifested. On the other hand, King Ajaat Shatru had realized that unconditioned Brahma, so he could not accept all these lower forms of meditations suggested by Garge. So he had practiced all of them and transcended them all. It's almost like when you look at something which is higher, you let go of the lower. It happens automatically. Even in this secular world, we see something better, we let go of the lower. That's why when we develop the love for God, the love for this temporary world, it just falls out. So that's why the Rishi Munis, they keep on saying, develop the love for him. Because there is no higher love than love for God. The love for this objective world will fall out. It looks very pale compared to that love. So this is what happened over here, that Rishi Garge, he had practiced all of them also. But King Ajaat Shatru, he practiced, but he transcended them. And Garge was very proud of his knowledge. But now he is realizing his own ignorance about the Supreme Brahma. And being aware of the tradition that the supreme knowledge could not be imparted unless a person is a regular disciple. That's why he's offering himself to be the disciple of the king. See, this is the greatness. He came to teach, but when he saw that king is already has experienced more than him, he says, I accept your discipleship. And he even prayed for instructions on the supreme unconditioned Brahma. This is the beauty. No matter how much we know, there's always somebody who might know more than you. And if you have an eagerness to learn, accept it. Become humble. So I find this story very motivating, very beautiful. Sure, it teaches us keep on progressing on the path of meditation, but at the same time, keep cultivating these qualities. The qualities of tolerance we learned today, qualities of humility. And another thing we got to remember, we are walking on the footsteps of certain rishis, gurus, but we are leaving behind certain footsteps too. Our footsteps will be the guiding lines. It could be our children, grandchildren, our students, or anybody else. Because at the end, we are all connected. We are all teachers also, and we should all stay students also. This is what I learned from my Guruji, that every student is a potential teacher, and every teacher should keep the mind open to learn more also. Never think that you know it all. And this is what we see in this beautiful section of this second chapter. So we'll start with verse number 15 next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much for joining.